Welcome to Monday Makers. I'm Sarah with the University City Public Library, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a jellyfish jar. So, we probably have lots of plastic bags sitting around our houses right now. And, unfortunately, when plastic gets out into the waterways, it looks a lot like a jellyfish. And then other stuff, fish and birds, try to eat them, and they get really sick, and that's a bummer. So we are going to recycle our plastic bags and make some cool art with them to make sure that they don't get out into the wild. So, to make a jellyfish jar, you need plastic bags, some bubble wrap, or if you don't have bubble wrap, a little bit of styrofoam. You're gonna need scissors, some permanent markers, a little bit of food dye, a twist tie. This one is way too long. You really only need a little piece of it, so I'm gonna cut mine down. But this is the twist tie I had, so I'm gonna make it work. And then, your jar. Now you wanna find a jar that's got a lid that seals really nice, so when you've got water in it, it won't leak out. And it also wants to be a jar that when it's full of water, it's not too heavy so you won't drop it. And of course you wanna scrub off all of the label and the sticky stuff so it's nice and clear and pretty to see through. So, to start, I'm gonna use bubble wrap because that styrofoam is gonna turn into a different craft for me. But if you were gonna use styrofoam, you're gonna chip off some small pieces of it because you only need a little bit to make your jellyfish float. So just a little piece of styrofoam is all you need. This is a lot. Or, if we're doing bubble wrap, you need to be able to cut out one fully inflated bubble. A popped bubble will not work. So I have this piece of a bubble wrap envelope, and I'm just gonna find one unpopped bubble, and it's okay to cut all the bubbles around it. You don't want this piece to be too big because then it'll like make the top of your jellyfish really lumpy. So I am going to try and trim real close without cutting my bubble. So just like that, and once you get one full bubble, put it to the side. Now, you can use lots of different types of plastic bags, but what I like to do is kind of mix and match. Now, when you have a thicker plastic bag, it's going to make longer, thicker tendrils, where this one will look very lacy and fluffy in the water. So I like to have a bit of both. And you're gonna cut your plastic so it lays flat. And the thinner plastic bags don't want to cut like really smoothly, but that's okay because jellyfish are very floaty with lacy edges, so if your plastic doesn't have a perfect edge, that's totally fine. And then I'm going to take this piece of plastic and lay it on top. Now, you've got all this plastic, right? I like to fold it in half, fold it in half again. So it's like that. Makes sense? You've got 2 layers. You've got a thicker layer and a thinner layer. Fold it in half, fold it in half again. So once you've got it this way, it's time to start cutting. And what I like to do before I start cutting is I like to start making a little bit of a pattern. So this is 1/4 of the size of the head of my jellyfish. So I'm just gonna make a little circly part. And then I don't want my jellyfish to be too much longer than my jar. So I know that the longest tendrils I have should be about that long. And then, kind of like cutting a snowflake, you're just gonna start making some wiggly shapes, but you don't want this 4 corners part here, this corner, to get cut, because that's the head of your jellyfish. And your jellyfish does not need a hole in its head. So I'm gonna start to trim this into a shape. It's a little easier to work with. I put all my extra plastic off to the side. And now, you're just gonna make lots of fun little frilly tendrils. And some of them can be shorter, and some will be longer. Sometimes I like to cut out some of this extra. We don't need all of it. Because these are gonna float around, they're gonna look really pretty. You can experiment with however you want to make your tendrils. So, now that we've cut all of these fun tendrils, I'm going to unfold my 2 layers of plastic. Carefully pull them apart. They're going to be a little tangled up together. So with my jellyfish, I've got a layer of this thicker plastic, and I want that to be on the top of my fish. Now I'm going to flatten it out a little bit, and then I'm going to very carefully lay my plastic out on something I can get some marker on, and I'm just gonna color on the edges of these little tendrils. See, that's pretty cool. And maybe I want a few less tendrils on this part. I'm gonna look and see if there's any of these that I want to remove. Like, I think that one could be a little shorter. Maybe that that one could be a little shorter too. Just kind of have fun with it. To make things a little easier, I have this little bowl that I'm going to set my jellyfish into, so while I'm finishing up all of the other stuff I gotta do here, it's ready to go. Now, this thinner plastic, as you can see, gets a lot of static really quickly. I'm just gonna flatten it out a little bit and draw on this some more too. It's a little tricky drawing on plastic with these markers, so that's why you definitely want to have some paper down so you don't make a mess of your table. All right. So I think that looks pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bowl with my first layer, and then I'm going to put my second layer in there too. I'm going to put my bubble wrap. I'm going to color on that a little too. I want to color it back real quick. There we go. So, now that we got all these pieces together, I'm going to take my twist tie and get that ready. You don't need a lot. And then I have a bowl with some water. You could do this at your sink. I'm going to start to fill up the head of my jellyfish with a bubble of water. And then I'm going to pick up all of these tendrils, pull them all together. Make a little bundle. And you're going to get water dripping out. That's okay. Doesn't have to be leak proof, but you're going to get all of that gathered up with a little bit of water into your bubble wrap in the head. And then you're going to twist, 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 twist together. And then once you've got your little bubble head there and all of your pieces twist time, you can go ahead, put your fish into your jar. Kind of poke it around a little. And now your jellyfish will always float to the top, and you can see all of his beautiful tendrils. And now you can understand why it's so easy for those birds and fish to get tricked by a plastic bag, because it sure looks like a jellyfish. And if you want to make your jar even prettier for your home, you put in a drop of blue food dye. And watch your fishy. Ooh, make sure you get the lid on really tight though. And that's how you make a jellyfish jar.